Welcome, everybody, here to KC Happy Hour, episode number 65. As we're working our way a little bit closer to 100, and more importantly, it is November. It is Vegas season, silly season for the rest of the national scene, starting to come into fruition as we get closer. The Cup Karts North America program starting to solidify the majority of their 2023 dates. Came out earlier this week, which was cool. The Route 66 Sprint Series, we talked about the ownership change. Their schedule's now finalized as well. USPKS, along with that breaking announcement we had not long ago with their KZ class getting added, has a bunch of updates. They've also pushed out through to our friends at ekartingnews.com that you guys can check out. We're going to talk about a little bit here tonight. Oliver Askew is going to join our show a little bit later as he returns to the seat in the Gearbox Go-Kart with GFC Karting. He's running the ROK Vegas event here this week as a warm-up a little bit, and then, of course, he'll be ready for the Mac Daddy to go for $15,000 with Team GFC at SuperNats 25, live streamed exclusively here on Kart Chaser and the SKUSA socials. So let's get into everything tonight. Aaron Hackmeister, my partner in crime, is here with us. Braden Eves is here with us as well. And for his first time on the show, KCT member Riley Cans here also, boys. Aaron, let's go ahead and kick it off. What do you got for us to start here tonight?
Yeah, starting off, like you said, SKUSA SuperNats coming up. They just released their track layout for the upcoming event, and it's pretty much the same as we've run the last 3 years. I think it's 2 or 3 years. Same layout, but we're going backwards now. So it's going heading down into the sharp. What was turn 11, I believe, is now turn 1, or not turn 1. Well, yeah, the flat out left-hander is now right-hander for turn 1, and then the start line is going to be on the back straight again. But you're heading down at a really sharp, almost 180 for turn 2 at the starts there, which is going to be, I think, some pretty interesting racing. But Braden, you're going to be out there. You're going to be running. What do you think of this layout?
I think I like it. I wish that we would see a little bit less, of those chicanes. I think it would be good to see a little bit more passing opportunities, just because the track looks really short like this. It looks like it's just going to be, you're going to be ripping through those S's real quick, and then the lap's going to be over before you know it. But I like this direction better. I like turn 1 this way. This turn 1 has kind of been pretty historic, and we've done it a ton of times throughout the years. So it's always been good, just like a good, I don't know, it's just a good corner. So, like I said, I think I would like to see a couple more tight corners in there, but other than that, it looks good.
I think Riley, what are you thinking about this?
I think it's going to be fun, honestly. Just like Brad was saying, at the top of the straightaway, it's just going to be crazy tight. I think there's going to be a lot of really good moves there. I don't know. I think the track's always super fun. It's going to be interesting to see the S's going backwards as well.
I'm with Braden on the S's. I don't know if they're going to add a whole lot to the racing there in terms of passing. There was a couple really cool passes there when it seemed like they were a little bit higher speed going the other direction last year. Dave Serra had a really good pass there. AJ Myers had a really bad pass attempt put on him there that ended his chances at winning KZ going that way. So I think that the S's going this way is a little funky. They've tightened up. It looks like the S's, the first section on the right-hand side. So that might still be somewhat of a zone, or more than anything, if you block at the end of the back straightaway there, it might be a little tougher to stay narrow enough and not get crossed up into that first S and have to back out because it's so tight. So I think that'll be interesting. Where we've got our cameras positioned, we just went over that on the initial plan today, which will be cool. It makes it a little bit trickier going this way because of wanting to get a good shot of the start and the finish. We'll have to put one kind of in the top left corner and then on the far right-hand corner side of the screen. The layout change being the same as what it's been. I know, Braden, you said you weren't a huge fan of it, right? Like part of, the box they're in is a little bit on the paddock layout. So at the bottom, last year, what was a big issue going the normal direction that they were trying to work out was the pit lane entry. There was a couple really bad crashes there on practice day that they had to sort out. Paulie Massimino flipped trying to get into the pit lane in one of the practice sessions because it was in the middle of the chicane. This year going this way, I hope that they do it this way. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. I was looking over the paddock map today, and we're obviously working really close with the team. This was a cool secret that we got to be a part of for the very first time, seeing stuff come out like 2 months before it hit the deck. Is I hope that we do it where the pit lane entry exiting the racetrack or track exit is straight through in the corner part and not in part of the dog leg going into the corner. Just so that way there's no exposed wall that we're near, and that way you're going to break more for the regular track surface than you would for going into the scales. And that was the big issue last year, was that you broke more to get off the racetrack than you did in the standard line, when 90% of the people, if you're pulling in early, are going to run the normal line. So when you design a racetrack, you have to have the layout where the entering the pits is as faster or a later braking zone than the regular surface. And I think this year is going to be pretty good for that part. Where they're going to enter the track is down in the final couple turns coming into the hairpin. It looks like that's going to be pretty safe. That's why that corner is really widened at the bottom left corner there. Jumbotron's going to be in the same spot. The VIP suites will be down in what will be the final hairpin, so that'll be a really cool viewing area. Grandstands, there's going to be a mechanic stand obviously along that straightaway by the grid, and then the rest of the grandstands will be along the finish line. which means the drivers will be kind of going away from you instead of coming towards you for the finish of the race, which will be a little bit weird. But yeah, I mean, in terms of breaking down the racetrack itself, I you know, I don't know, Braden. Why don't you elaborate here with the map up? Like, what could you do different with those chicanes to kind of make it a little more racy? Because we have, we're back on the same canvas we've been on, for the majority of the 25 SuperNats that have run so far.
Yeah, so I mean, my biggest question is before they left the Rio and before they went to the Westgate, the 3 years prior to that, 2014, 2013, and 2012, they had the track was just incredible. Like, they had it probably as good as they could possibly get. They went out of turn one, then there was kind of like a 90-degree left into a fast, flat out right into a hairpin, and then to another kind of longer duration corner. Back then, they just had it like it was so perfect that it was like so hard for, like, they did it for 3 years and they did very, very minimal changes because everyone was just super happy with it and nobody really complained about that. I mean, there was that, the people that would say, oh, I think it's a parking lot, we're supposed to have a completely different track every year so that's level playing field. But in reality, like, the drivers want something that we can race on safely, and there's plenty of passing opportunities. It's SuperNats, so in my opinion, the SuperNats should have passing opportunity in essentially every corner. That's what makes the racing the way it is. That's what gives the race the notoriety that it does. When you're gonna, if you don't pass, you're gonna get lunged in every single corner you do. So for me, just putting like 3 chicanes that's just gonna make it more single file racing is against the spirit of the SuperNats. I mean, November was my favorite month growing up for so many years that, SuperNats just has such a special place in my heart, and it's just a little bit disappointing to see them kind of go away from, what made it so great, which was, just passing opportunities every single time.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I like I like the chicanes where, like, you can have, because the problem when you have passing like that, though, is then you got blocking like every single corner and it backs the fields up. Like, you can go the other way where the ROK Vegas layout for the initial couple of years and the Rotax Rio, every single corner was a passing, like all the passing zones were in the same section of the racetrack and they were like super wide, super tight hairpins. The straightaways were like, open. So in this layout, for example, you pretty much took the way that you're going down that long backstretch on the top, did a right-handed hairpin, went a long way, did a left-handed hairpin, went another way, did a right-handed hairpin, and then went to the rest of the racetrack. You had maybe one other passing zone. And those hairpins so wide, you lost like so much time because you could pass all there. I guess in that case, because it was like a 50-50, like half the track had passing zones, half didn't. But it hurt the racing because you lost so much time when you blocked.
But the way the track used to be was,
like the old SuperNats, I agree, was okay.
But you used to be able to block and not lose much time, and that's how it always, especially like Westgate. I used to be able to, like, you just turn down early, essentially be off the corner, and you might lose 300 or 400, but like you would not lose much time at all. And that's kind of like, that's why the racing was so tough, though, because the tracks were made in a way that you could defend but not lose time. And so it was super, like, the people that were good at it, and nobody would be able to get by them, and they would just go to the front on racecraft. But otherwise, I mean, there wasn't really an issue with blocking because you didn't really lose that much time.
What about, like, so what do you think on the hairpins in the final sector? Like those switchback hairpins back and forth.
Yeah,
right?
I like those.
We've had that. You like those?
Yeah, I like those.
I feel like you guys lose a lot of time in those sections when you block. No.
I think like, especially like the just 2017, we were at the Westgate. They had the kind of similar section, but it was going the other way. And well, back then at least they were super, super wide. So like even on a normal hot lap, you weren't using all the track because it was so wide. But I mean, I don't really think you lose much time going through there. Like, they rubber in so well, and because the racing is so crazy, it's like you can go all the way narrow, and it's not like you're getting dirt on your tires because the track is always super clean.
In the one good part of going this way this year, right, is obviously that we're going to now have a really good run to the finish. We kind of had it with the flat out 90 going into the checker, but very rarely do you ever get crossed up there. Now, like, you're going to be able to get crossed up in that last hairpin. I mean,
Yeah.
for a hairpin for a last corner like that, if you win it, there may be like a couple fluke wins from third, but I don't feel like there's going to be uh, uh, as many like safe wins, if you're
Yeah.
leading the pack going this way.
Mhm.
I think at least the finish of the race going this way versus like you could look at the race where Ben Cooper won, right? Where Travis Anuda got drove over. And so that was on this layout going the other direction. And he was able to block pretty easily through the flat out 90 coming to the checker. And then there was no real run to the line. Like only I think when Connor Zilish lost to James Wharton and maybe one or two other like mini finishes, like in cadets where the draft was big and somehow they blundered into the 90. Here, like it's gonna be tricky to like park it right and not get beat. And I'd I don't think that the outside will work there. I don't know, right? I mean, around the outside of a hairpin in that point, because the track will probably be really dirty in the outside of the last turn, but at least here there'll be a lot of crossovers probably coming to the checkered flag, which will be cool. But
It'll lead to a lot of interesting racing, and I have a feeling that for the last three turns, you have the right and then the left and the right hairpin. Like the person running into the corner first is probably not going to be who wins the race for, I would guess, at least 4 races out there, if not more, unless they just run away completely. Like you're going to see a lot of really strong battling through there. Last laps, I feel like, are going to be a lot more interesting than they have been for the last couple SuperNats.
Yeah, like the heats will be cool because there'll be a lot of guys like blocking and probably losing in the last corners, like coming into it, And now, I mean, the one big change too. So the one thing that'll be really different about this layout is that it was like a carousel corner with a dog leg or a little kink coming out of it in that bottom right corner. And now that's going to be like one of probably the slowest corner on the racetrack if it comes out the way that they're looking like it's going to come out. Like that corner is completely different too. So coming out of there, and then there's a long straightaway to get crossed up out of it right in front of the mechanic stand at the bottom side. That corner is going to be a lot different. So there is like some minor changes on it, but that's similar to how they did it in that 2012 to 2014 era. Is there was always like one minor change in the racetrack, like in the from 2013 to 14, the last sector changed a little bit. It became less of like a bunch of double apex corners that like people couldn't pass in. Then it got a little bit tighter, like I'm trying to remember some of the minor changes they did in that era, Braden. If you can remember the corners they would change.
Yeah, it was like the last 2 corners was really what they were changing. Yeah. And like the last, you were never really able to pass there super well. There was maybe the first year you kind of could, and then the following 2 years it was a little bit more kind of like just kind of, you could make up time there, but it wasn't really, you weren't going to like lunge anyone. So I guess kind of similar to like what the S's will probably be this time. I think my big question is how they're going to do the track width, because last year that was a real, like, they really did a poor job with that last year, with how they were making the entry super narrow, and then, the entry super wide, and then the exit super narrow, and it was like really bad for the racing, and it was just bad for safety, bad for everything. Where like if they do it right, where it should be like kind of even, if not slightly wider on the exit, so that it doesn't get bottled up when you invite less people in, and then in reality more people can fit than it looks like, where it was the other way around, whereas like everyone thought they could fit, and then they would go in and everyone would just pile on top of each other. So I'll be interested to see how they do that, if they do a better job this year with that.
Is it more of like a space issue? Like, do we have more space at the Rio or at the Speedway last year?
I think we have a little bit more in terms of the track layout space to work with. The Speedway obviously had a little bit more on the parking side. The Rio has a lot more space on the track because it's that lower paddock that they can't invade, or that lower parking lot they can't really invade, right? Because you're going down that ramp to get to the racetrack. So I would think that we'll probably get back to where we were with those hairpins being really, really wide. The S's, that's where it could change is how narrow or tight those exits will be. But then like for example, the hairpin at the far right hand end of the screen, that'll probably be a stupid wide entry, and they've got a lot of space to go wide on the exit, depending on how tight or not tight they make that corner. It'll probably look very similar to how it was in that 2014 era, where it is going to be really wide on the entry and the exit. And so that corner kind of coming back will be good. And this is the first time we're going to go start this way into that dogleg corner in the pushback bumper era, because I mean, Braden, you've raced in the non-pushback era going into that corner, and you just kind of rode the guy in front of you, and you just watched the rows in front of you like wash out and crash. Like it won't. That probably won't happen this year. It might. I mean, I don't know. It seems like everyone's getting better at pushing down the bumpers, but I think that I agree. If the exit of the corner there is wide, it should be safe. The chicanes are going to be what the chicanes are, and then how much they get room to play with that hairpin at the bottom right corner will be interesting. But you will have more space on the left-hand side of the track than I think they did in Vegas with how they lay it out. But we won't really know until the track build starts, next Monday, and it starts to get into it for sure.
I'm the especially like with this layout, really either direction really reminds me of the Newcastle front straightaway, because it's basically flat out this direction, flat out right-hander, kink, and then you'd have essentially I-70 over there, and that just gives me like flashbacks to KA Stars at the Stars Championship Series this year, where they ended up going like 4 wide into the start in the final and took out 10 go-karts. So it could be, I could see that going a little rough on the starts there. But I think outside of that, like we had a lot of starts that actually went decently through there as well. So you'll be able to 50-50 on it, I think.
And this should be about twice as wide as Newcastle backwards turn 1.
Yeah, the track
it's
is going to be
way,
but it also invite
wide.
people to push it way, like they'll want to push it 4 or 5 wide on the start, I feel like, and try to make up 2 rows under braking, which could be dangerous as well.
I mean, that goes back
to carnage.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be guys spun in that first corner with how much speed they get
absolutely.
down there. I mean, they'll do everything they can to keep that start clean, and move that start zone down the front straightaway later. I mean, Braden on the starts back then, right? We were full throttle about halfway down that back stretch. I mean,
even earlier, a lot of the time we were going, because there was so many Europeans that would come over. We'd just be like flat out of the last corner pretty much, especially if you were like a little bit further down in the field.
Yeah. So curious how, if we do the American style slower starts, what that would change on what that turn looks like, because it's either you got to go one extreme or the other. You pack the field up tight, you keep the speed really low, and you get a few guys driven over, or the other safe way is you go, like you said, out of the last corner and then the back half of the field. They're not even double file. It's like IndyCar style. If they do that, that's another safe way too. But I think that's, I don't want to say it's outdated. I just don't think it's a way that it'll go. But got a lot of comments coming in on it so far. Yes, we'll be filming there. Yes, we're set for the live stream. Actually had another production meeting today. We've got a few more later this week. The collaboration with eKarting News is going to continue into the SuperNats. Those guys actually have the first of their, I don't know if it's the only prediction show they're going to do. They're going to do a show on Friday night with their crew, starting to preview some of the entry list. We have some meetings with Rob and them. He'll be up in the booth while he's racing K Masters. Mike Smith from Cal Speed Karting, the announcer last year, is going to be up there. I'll be up there. We'll be up there with more cameras than we've ever done, more social coverage than we've ever done. Super cool. Everyone here is going to be there in Vegas for that week. As for this week, we're not at the ROK race. We're going to have some predictions later tonight. We did have our fantasy league originally slated for the ROK event, but since you guys won't get to watch all the action, we're going to do double points for SuperNats Fantasy League predictions for X30 and for Shifter, as those entry lists get to us closer to that week, and do some pretty cool giveaways. We got some new brand partners that are going to come on board and give that stuff away, which will be really cool. So SuperNats will be there. ROK will not. Let's go to the other of the big three, the trifecta here tonight. USPKS not to be outdone throughout the month of November. Dropped some bombshell news last week. Aaron, go ahead and take us through some of what we got.
Yeah, so first one, pretty mundane. X30 Masters moving to KA Masters for the 2023 schedule. This one, I was a little 50-50 on. The Masters guys. Like you can see, there's been a decline in X30 Masters throughout the last couple of years. I don't know whether making that a KA Masters class is going to help out or not. I guess we'll see next year. But it seemed like, especially from the comments that I was seeing out there, a lot of the guys wanted to stick with X30. They really didn't want to move to a KA on MG Reds. They liked their X30 platform. So that was kind of the first piece of news there, but that was a little bit smaller. The bigger stuff was that they're going to a single event weekend here for 2023. And this is the stuff that I think Braden and Riley and all you guys can have a lot more info on, or a lot more opinions on. They're moving to, it's a single event. It's just like what Xander's been pushing for a long time. If you want to make the product better and make it more presentable to an audience, you make it one final on Sunday. And that's what they did. We are moving back to Friday qualifying, but we're only doing one round. So it'll be probably, I'm guessing, 4 rounds of practice and then qualifying. Then you get 3 heats, LCQs, and finals, I guess. But, Riley, I think you ran USPKS the most recently. What are you thinking about this?
No, I mean, I've always liked the USPKS schedule. They've always ran things pretty well, and I think that like having the 3-day weekends like that is just going to make things so much easier, especially for the people who are maybe privateering or don't really have the budget to go out there all 4 days in the weekend and get all the testing and stuff. And I do think that that's nice.
Braden, what do you think? You ran last month, but full season wise, you haven't run it in a while. What do you think of this new format?
Yeah, I mean, I think change is good sometimes, just to see what everyone thinks. I mean, I always like the 2-day layout, but at the same time, I think sometimes if you do the single event weekend right, it can feel more like one big show at the end of it. But at the same time, I think like you have to kind of like make some decisions with how you're going to do points for the heats, because then you have to have points for the heats, because if somebody just crashed out in the final and they get nothing the whole weekend and they're just like, oh, why would I come back? So you need to kind of split it up through the weekend and make sure people still get a good amount of racing. And then also, like, it'll be interesting to see how they do like the heat racing points. Some people do it like progressive, some people do it just like sort of progressive, or like trying to think of how to explain, but like some people do a full
Static.
progressive. Yeah. Some people do static, and then some people kind of like do progressive but then do points. I've seen that as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do for that.
So the main change for this, so like O'Reilly said, like a lot of people were happy with the fact that you had 2 full days of racing. You got to reset Saturday night if you had a bad day Saturday. Ultimately, that mindset of kind of keeping everybody happy is more of a regional and a club mindset. And this is more of, I don't know if you want to call it pro or national, but, you show up and you want a winner. I mean, the part of the issue, of those races with the double weekend format is everyone forgets the guy that wins on Saturday 9 times out of 10. You walk away from the weekend and you remember the guy that won on Sunday, and you forget the guy that won the main event on Saturday. So the guy that wins Saturday, it doesn't matter as much. Now, this comes into a lot of factors and a lot of questions that we'll get answers from as we get closer to it, right? What are the cash payouts changed to? Is it now going to be $5,000 on the line for the checkered flag on Sunday, or will it be points through the weekend? You would think that it would be that main event Sunday, but the whole reason they've done the payouts the way they've done them is a weekend total on points through the 2 finals. SKUSA's taken that same exact cash prize structure. They've done it per main event per day, $2,500 to win per day at a SKUSA doubleheader. USPKS is $5,000 to win the overall. So you could finish second both days, win $5,000. SKUSA, those main events, $2,500 to win each day. You have a bad day Sunday, good day Saturday, you still walked away with some cash. Spreads the money more. In theory, you could have 6 guys walking away with cash instead of 3 at the maximum at a USPKS format. And there's the old adage, too, of like, oh, if there's money on the line, people are going to be stupid. And at the Miami Grand shootouts, we see a little bit of that. But that's the only place that's ever been. And there's no points in those events, too, right? And the money's bigger. I think if you're racing for less, maybe it's not. So what do those USPKS main events look like if they have $5,000 on the line to win that main event and $2,500 to finish second? Does that change that series dynamic a little bit? It could. The big change with this, and here's why I wanted to lead into it, The reason they're doing it is because this gives a lot more play out throughout the day. There's going to be in total less track time on Saturday and Sunday by a marginal amount, right? You would think Saturday will be a warm-up, heat 1, heat 2. Sunday will be a warm-up, heat 3, main event after the lunch break with the option for LCQs, or you could do all 3 heats in the day, but I don't think they will because of the class sizes they've been getting. They've typically had about 2 classes that need an LCQ each day. If you need an LCQ, that means you're going to do A, B, C, D qualifying groups, which is what we see at SuperNats. And if that's the case, there's no real way to do that keeps everybody happy and understanding of how the format goes without doing static grids. If you do progressive grids with points and the ABCD format, you get what the CKNA guys have tried to do at the Grand Nationals the last couple of years at Newcastle, and everyone ends up confused. And the reason why they end up confused is because you might finish third in your heat race, but you can still line up then on the inside of the third row or the outside of the third row in your next heat race because the 2 guys that beat you were from your line. They were from your group, your A, B, C, or D group. And then on the flip side, you could finish 4th and you might get to line up front row in the next heat race, and your points kind of all change around a little bit too. So it gets super, super complicated if you do progressive. If I was a betting man, which we're going to Vegas in a few weeks, so got to get in that mindset, bet would be static grids with the plan to have room for A, B, C, D heats for more than 2 classes, because with the double day format, you don't have room to do more than really 2 classes with LCQs without the potential of running past daylight hours at the times of the year that they're going to run. So I imagine we're going to see static grids to those heat races. They've always done static grids. I think outside of 1 year, they did progressive grids in when they used to have warm-up quality heat 1, heat 2 main in a single day. Every other year was always static grids. I think it's going to go back to static grids. It'll be set up very similar to SuperNats in the way the format's going to be probably. Quali, heat 1, 2, 3, set off quali. Main event set off heat points. LCQ for the guys that don't transfer on the heat points. And it gives them the room on the KA classes. The other change, too, on the championship is now it's 4 out of 5 weekends. So you could miss a USPKS weekend, still win a title would be really, really difficult, but it's possible. More important than that, you probably won't see guys in the top championship fight miss a weekend, but you might see guys fighting for 5th or 3rd or 4th in a championship in a class miss a weekend and still contend. They're going to Texas for the very first time. That's way out of their normal region in the Midwest and the Southeast. So you might see some guys either miss that race, or you might see some guys right off the Florida race in Orlando and still go for a top 10 in points title or top 5 in points title because they could miss an entire weekend. Because up until that, you could only drop 1 round out of 8 over 4 weekends. You were not going to win the championship if you missed a single day. It just wasn't going to happen, or get into the top 3 or 5. So that changes a little bit. But I think you'll see the static stuff. And then you got Shifter coming in. That's the other big storyline. KZ coming in. What does that do to the purse stuff? What does that do for the class stuff? I think that is the biggest wild card this year, is that KZ finally can be run in, or a shifter class can be run in every single national program out there. Stars, USPKS, ROK, SKUSA for the very first time. Never happened during the WK era. Didn't happen in USPKS. That is huge for the shifter boys to go over there, and could be a transition year in a way. And what does the purse money look like? Does KA get some? Does X30 Junior get it yanked? Does that kill X30 Junior? Because X30 Junior has been smaller than KA, but what's been hanging on, I think, is partially the purse money to keep the guys in the class, and that it's the more competitive class overall. So
I was
know.
curious about that, whether they drop the X30 Pro Junior payout and move that as the KZ payout or the shifter payout. I like the shifter overall, though. I think this will bring a lot of interest to it, because before, you could go and run SKUSA or whatever, but a lot of the guys that would go and they get into stars, let's say stars, you go KA to KZ, and you get up there and you start to be competitive, but then you got to go all the way out to Utah and New Orleans to go run anything outside of stars. And that makes it harder for them when you have a schedule like we do here, where you've got a bunch of races on the eastern half of the U.S. I think you're going to see a lot stronger of a shifter field within the next 2-3 years than we've been seeing, in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it could make the shifter stuff a lot bigger and a lot more intriguing, where you could run the same package all year long in the ladder program, and then it I mean, it just changes the complexion. I would imagine the payout will come from the KZ entries and the sponsorship that it'll come for that class. But I think I don't think it robs it from anything, but I think X30 Junior versus KA Senior, because the KA guys want to pay out, I mean, they're pulling a lot of entries. There's a fair argument, but it's a semi-pro class, so you don't want to put it in. And now there's that final where they could be running for a lot of money. So there's a lot of changes there, but I don't think there's anything negative about them adding the KZ stuff. I mean, Braden, Riley, it's kind of a no-brainer on their regard. I don't think it changes anything, really for the series as a whole, besides bringing a whole lot of new people. The only thing is you'll just probably see the X30 KZ Pro split be a little bit different,
Honestly,
I don't know.
The worst thing is it's going to make the days longer now. There's that extra class or two you got to watch.
Yeah.
Pretty good, though.
I mean, I don't know that the days will be any longer. We're just going to get a little bit less track time, but I think it's a little bit less important to get the track time especially when you're on one final per weekend's kind of schedule, because you end up having 2 sets of tires, right? And you got to allocate them, but everyone saves the second set of tires for the final. So if you have like Miami Grands this year, we had a ton of laps. It was like 15 lap heats. We had like 3 of those, and then we had like an 18 lap pre-final. We did all that on one set of tires, and our tires were like shot at the end of the pre-final. So I think it's a little bit less important to get a ton of laps, especially when you're on that format. Makes it a little bit more of like shootout racing in the heats, and then the final is when everyone puts their head on straight and goes for the win.
Yeah, it makes the heats a lot more like test sessions with it, because you can burn a lot, especially if they're static grids. It'll make qualifying still pretty important, but if there are only 3 sessions on Saturday, 3 sessions on Sunday instead of 4, the days should end up around the same. When you add one class, typically adds 45 minutes to an hour to a day, but we're taking out a round of sessions and kind of neutralizing it out. I think the days will stay around the same. They might be a little bit shorter as the season goes on and they get less LCQ needed classes, but doesn't change a whole lot. It just makes the driver dynamic of what those turnouts going to be interesting, right? And in the same way that everyone's kind of waiting on the sidelines for the OKN stuff to see what that turns out with the Stars guys. So makes I used to like to pride myself in being able to kind of play the odds and play the stock market almost of picking races that would have the biggest turnouts with the classes that I would want to run. And I think going into 2023, I don't know X30 versus Shifter, which one will beat each other out for turnouts, because X30's turned more pro than years past. KA will probably have bigger numbers than both of them, but the depth of field won't be as heavy in either one. And so then that'll come down to probably what guys want to run in terms of depth. How many good guys are you really going to run against if you run X30, and how many good guys are you really going to run against if you run KZ, which is a big wild card that we're going to wait and see. But that's a lot of changes for them. I bet we go static grids. I bet we go with a few other stuff in that, and we're going to find out more as the week progresses. We're going to talk about ROK Vegas coming up next here a little bit. Oliver Askew's been in and out. I'm hoping we can get him back in here. We had his connection for a little bit and lost him. So we're going to do that. If not, we'll come back for commercial, start making our ROK Shifter predictions for this week, talk a little bit more. We'll see you guys right after the break.
Kart Store USA is a kart parts supplier that racers and retailers can count on when they need reliable advice and service. We focus on servicing all racers with honesty and pride while maintaining customer satisfaction. We carry a full stock of Kart Republic and Tony Kart chassis, as well as IAMI and Vortex ROK engines. We've also got a host of other parts available and in stock, such as products from Rev Performance Materials, Jekko Racing Seats, and more. We have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and on top of that, if your order exceeds $200, shipping is on us. Check out all we have to offer today by visiting us online at kartstore-usa.com.
At New Gen Motorsport, we're committed to using our 10-plus years of experience and knowledge to help grow the sport of karting from the bottom up. Our goal is to make karting more accessible to the average person, lessening the financial burden of getting started, and making the learning curve as small as possible. Our passion is training and developing drivers, mechanics, and engineers to not only be the best they can be in karting, but also for careers in the much larger world of professional motorsports. A strong foundation makes building bigger easier. Let us be that foundation for your karting and motorsports career. Be part of the new generation of motorsport. Contact us today to schedule your test day, arrive and drive race event, or to inquire about how we can help get you started in your own new gen racing kart.
Don't settle for a national engine builder. Take care of yourself with an international one. SRP Engines is a global industry leader in engine services, specializing in engine formulas such as KZ, OK, OKJ, and Mini 60. SRP Engines is the engine of choice for Magic Kart USA and helped power North America's #1 ranked pro shifter driver AJ Myers to the 2021 SuperKarts USA Pro Tour National Championship. SRP Engines can also service any spec engine class of your choice, including IAME and ROK divisions. However, if you're looking for the absolute choice when it comes to KZ shifter engines, there is nobody better. For more information, contact Amr Sanada at srp-engines.com. KC Happy Hour is proudly presented by the ROK Sonoma Karting Championship, presented by Cameron Race Promotions, the most competitive Northern California karting series. Featuring a 2-day format with practice on Saturday and racing on Sunday, multiple track configurations, and a massive prize structure including tickets to ROK Vegas, race car test opportunities, and race rewards. ROK Sonoma is the training ground of multiple national karting champions each year and race car champions as well. Featuring a full ROK Cup USA class structure with each race weekend streamed live via YouTube, it's a series you cannot miss. For more info, check us out online at zanzarukarting.com.
All right, guys, welcome back. And joining us for the very first time on KC Happy Hour, Mr. Oliver Askew, live from the GFC tent over in Vegas. Oliver, I was watching you in the green room. Looks like you've been bouncing around. Things seem busy over there, eh?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, first of all. Miss you guys here this weekend. Unfortunately, I don't think you guys are going to be out here. Love what you do. It's going to be a busy weekend. I just flew in today, and we're right at it. And scaling the kart, getting everything ready, and running with the GFC guys this weekend, as I was a couple years ago. Last time we were here at the Rio for ROK competition. So looking forward to it.
So talk to me, dude. Have you walked the racetrack yet? The layout's a lot different than what they've done the last few years. From what we understand from the shifter guys, we want open, almost dogleg kind of entries to corners, no double apexes as much as we can, and some good places to pass. So have you gotten to check it out yet? Have you looked at the track map at least?
We did have a track walk about an hour ago, and it looks interesting. Unlike anything else they've had here, talking about both ROK and SKUSA competition, from my knowledge, it has a good mix of very low-speed corners and I think 3 or 4 high-speed corners as well, very high speed. So that first complex, turns 1, 2, 3, is probably the highlight of the track so far. From just early looks at it, it's very, very technical, and looking forward to getting on it tomorrow.
So what's driving you back, man? You've been all over the world. You're obviously the Andretti reserve guy for IndyCar. You've been in a full Formula E season. Why are you back? We love to have you back. I don't want to make it seem like we're chasing you away from the sport of karting, but what's driving you back, man? Because we'd love to hear it.
I still love it, and it's for me one of the purest forms of motorsport, and I look at it as just a scaled down IndyCar. I feel that the corners are coming at me at the same rate, and it's extremely physical, and there's nothing better that I can do when I'm outside of the car to keep me sharp. And not to mention, my great friend Gary Carlton has always supported me and has me out here whenever I want. So I'm very fortunate to have him in my corner, and he runs a pretty good shifter car program as well. So looking forward to a successful weekend, hopefully.
And you guys,
how much have you been sticking in karting as you kind of moved up the road to Indy ladder, into IndyCar, into Formula E? How much have you been staying in karting and staying around the sport overall?
I've actually spent a lot more time in karting now than I was when I first entered the road to Indy. Don't know why that is, honestly. But this year I've probably done 8 or 9, maybe 10 days in a kart. I've done a couple of club races with Gary in California over the past couple of months, just to get ready so I can come here on this weekend and not feel so rusty. So I feel good.
Have you been taking it to the locals, or they've been taking it to you over at Sonoma over there for those club races? Have you got beat by any of those guys?
I'm pretty competitive at Sonoma, but we did go to Cal Speed for a SKUSA race a couple weeks ago, and I got my ass handed to me there, to be honest. So that's a very, very strange track, very technical, but I enjoyed it. It was good training.
And so, you haven't run on this newer SuperNats layout, shifting gears to what you got coming in a couple of weeks. Looking at that one, any first thoughts on the track as well? We were talking about that a little bit earlier in the show.
To be honest, I haven't studied that one too closely. It looks like just a backwards version of what they ran before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So they're running that clockwise now, correct?
Yeah, so they changed a couple things on it, right? I'll throw it on the screen just so to catch you up. The only major change you can tell, it looks like they've tightened that last chicane, it'll be the first of the two chicanes we get to, a little bit more. And then the bottom right corner of the screen used to be a carousel corner you could pass into with a little kink coming out. Now it's a really tight hairpin going in. We've had, a lot of the major shifter guys that we're used to. We've kind of have what's turned into the American Big Three between Danny Formel, Jake French, and AJ Myers. Had them on the show talk about the dynamics of track design for shifter racing. You've run that, a number of races in gearbox karts both before, during, and now after your years coming up to where you're at. Is there parts of, to me, it seems like it's so much trickier to design a temporary course for good racing with a gearbox class than a single speed class. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm not really an expert in track design, but yeah, I'd say it's difficult to cater to both categories. I do feel like just that, taking that brief look at the track map that you just had on there, it looks short. Thinking about having over 40 shifter carts out there per group, that could be difficult just to find clear track.
Yeah, that's been kind of the case the last couple of years. Braden and Riley, you both have run it on that layout. Was it ever an issue in practice or quali getting clear track on the other direction?
I've never run that track.
Going the other way. No, like last year.
Oh, it's way different than last year.
Well, I mean, it's the same layout. We're talking.
It's the
Oliver's
same
talking
layout.
course.
It's not the same layout.
He's talking the length of the race. It's the same total distance.
But it's not.
Dude, it is so close. It is so. I just went over the changes. How do you do this every? You just don't listen to Oliver. This is the stuff we got to deal with on a regular basis on this show, man. We get into it, we get going, and Braden's just out there in La La Land like half the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, that's a good point, right? So we ran it. I think it's going to be a little bit slower going this direction, to be honest. Lap time wise, maybe a second or two. I think going this way, it looks like it's going to tighten up a little bit more. You're going to, at the same time, you're coming into those hairpins a little bit faster. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not. But yeah, it is per square footage in terms of the amount of dead space on the paddock. Probably going to end up being a little bit quicker of a lap time than before. And, obviously with you guys in gearbox stuff, you're not wanting, any kind of a tow 9 times out of 10. And I don't think you'll want it on this layout because the straightaway is at the beginning of the lap. So that was the one thing last year that maybe it didn't matter as much because the straightaway was on the very last part of the circuit. But whenever the straightaway is at the very beginning of the lap, you don't ever want to tow off a guy, and you hardly ever want to tow on shifter anyway. You want to get a clear track where, guys really aren't in your way because the tow is much less of a benefit than the cost of getting behind a slower guy.
As tall as I am, I wouldn't mind a tow. It would be nice. And we're just walking the track, and there's almost always a headwind coming from the Rio for the couple of years that I've been here. I feel like that's the direction of the wind. Pretty much every time we come here, so
that makes a difference for sure. Well,
yeah.
You've got Kyle Wick who's really come along on the ROK stuff, and then for the KZ program, Gary feels like he's come along pretty well. When you did those test weekends, at least, did Gary go out and play with you? Did Sonny or any other shifter guys that he had come out and try to smoke you a little bit too?
Gary did one session, and of course he put the best tires on that he had in the trailer, and went out and handed it to us. He wanted to run one last session out at Cal Speed before they shut it down. So
Fair enough. See, every
That was
time
the
we,
reason
you
for
know, we talk to Gary, he says he's probably working over there in the 10, isn't he, right now? Probably putting someone's go-kart together?
I don't know. Right now we're just, I think he's over there scaling some carts, but I have Mattia here working for me this weekend.
There you go.
One of Gary's longtime mechanics from Australia. Say hello.
Hi, guys.
So he's a really, really good guy. Switched on.
Do you know what the entries look like there? I mean, it looks like the paddock's pretty filled up with tents across the board. Obviously, at the front of the field, you're racing a lot of the same guys. What's the turnout look like over there at ROK Vegas?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I would expect over 35, 40 shifters. I would assume. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see when we get out there tomorrow, I guess. So to be honest, I haven't walked around too much. We'll see. It is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of teams here for sure.
Yeah, world travel. Are you staying in Vegas in the week between? Or are you going back home to Florida in the gap week?
No, I'll go back home. Yeah, Vegas is too expensive, man. I can't stay here the whole time.
Well, the rooms are cheap. The rooms get really cheap during the week. You know, you could probably stay in that off week for $50. Just how much time you're going to spend at the craps tables.
Yeah, I'd struggle to find a grocery store around here. They just want you to eat out and spend a bunch of money.
Yeah, fair enough, man. Well, hey, dude. Closing thoughts, of course, getting out of it. You know, you're excited, obviously, to be back in it. Is this going to be a regular thing for you? We get to see you kind of come back to Vegas during November season, hopefully, as your career continues on going.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I've enjoyed it every time that I had the opportunity to come out here. Maybe could see me do some winter tour stuff as well. Have to talk to Gary a bit more about that, but obviously that's a bit easier for me being in Florida, being a Florida native and living there right now. So yeah, I love it, man. Like I said earlier, like this doesn't get old, and it keeps me sharp and keeps a smile on my face. It's always fun to come out here.
Well, I know you follow a lot of the stuff that we've done, and you and I have talked a lot about being on this show. So I appreciate you making it. It was tough for me this year to figure out when the hell you were in the States and when you weren't, when you couldn't come on here live. But do you have any closing thoughts for the viewers here? You know, you're just as much of a viewer as we've had all season.
Yeah, you know me, man. I enjoy what you guys are doing. I think it's a fantastic thing for karting in the U.S. and yeah, keep doing it. Keep it up. Thank you for what you do.
Hey, thank you, man. We're happy to have superstars like you joining us back. So, Oliver, we'll let you get back to prep and set up here, buddy. Thanks for joining us here tonight.
See ya. See you, Braden.
All right.
Later.
Dalton Haynes is joining the show for shifter predictions. I wanted to tease it to him just because he's dripped out and looking good. But we're going to have to send it to commercial and cut him off. And, you know, I'm going to probably cut him off a few times here tonight in fashion with our replacement Paulie for the evening. We're going to come back after the break here to rank who we think is going to come out on top in ROK Shifter. We know at least a lot of the major contenders that will be there. Like Oliver said, the prediction will be probably 30 to 40 in the fields. Our boy Ryan Norberg, as much as he wants to go shifter, is not on the entry list there. I think he's either in VLR or GP or both in the 125 stuff. But there are a number of heavy hitters in the shifter class. We'll be back right after the break, guys.
Line has steadily made progress since its inception in October 2021. On top of servicing the Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana areas with products from Compkart chassis, Tillotson carts and engines, Miami, Briggs, Honda, and more, they're now promoting race events as well throughout the mid and coastal South region at NOLA Motorsports Park and Finish Line Performance Karting in Biloxi, Mississippi. Races are already set for the fall of 2022. September 3rd, October 22nd, and November 12th at NOLA Motorsports Park, and 2 dates, September 10th and October 15th at Finish Line Performance Karting. Driver Line is set to finish this year strong.
As the Western importer of the Praga and Formula K chassis brands, Leading Edge Motorsports is a high-performance kart shop and race team with a simple mission: teach others the joy of high-performance driving, supply our customers with the highest quality products and services, and most of all, win races. With our remarkable racing inventory, expert services, and top-ranked national-level team to back it up, we'll help to get your new kart racing package up and running fast. From arrive and drive service to kart preparation and driver coaching to the parts you need to get you back on the racetrack, Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer.
From 4-stroke to 100cc to 125cc and beyond, Technokart USA has a winning option for you. Based out of Des Plaines, Illinois, Technokart USA offers both chassis designed to win in all divisions of North American karting and a top-level race support program at the US Pro Kart Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, select Cup Karts North America races, and both the ROK Vegas and SKUSA SuperNationals. Podiums, wins, and championships are waiting for you whenever you're ready to get on a Technokart. For more information, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/TechnokartUSA.
All right, everybody, welcome back. So Aaron's got the master list. We're going to go through a lot. We got, as usual, a little bit behind our schedule, BSing and playing armchair quarterback, being a series owner. So I'm going to go through the list really quickly of who we've got that's lined up because there's a lot. So first of all, on Oliver's team, GFC, they've got a pretty full layout. When you look at the heavy hitters that have been really quick, Oliver, you have to expect will be in the picture. Kyle Wick has a Pro Tour win to his name here this year. He'll be really fast as the Track Magic supported guy. PSL, massive 10. Marian Kremers, double duty, ROK GP senior, and ROK shifter. Jake French has been their main shifter guy for years. He's there. Hunter Pickett signed with them, was with GFC for a number of seasons, moved over to PSL this year. It's been quick. Been a top 3, top 5 guy. Went over to the ROK Worlds, ran 6th. And David Greco, who's been Captain Canada and has been dominating all of the Canadian Nationals nearly all season, is there under the PSL tent. And then you look over to the other of the big 3 and shifter, AJ Myers and Andrew Berjoso. I texted Andrew, make sure he was racing. He said, hell yes, of course I am. Big shifter race. Wild man. James, son of karting himself, Andrew Berjoso is running. And then on the RPG camp, Hannah Greenemeyer will be there running shifter. She's had some good runs this year. And the big man, Danny Formal, is running with RPG as well. So we've got our master list. We've got it together. Riley, let's kick it off to you, brother. Who you got this week? Who's taking it for the first of the 2 major gearbox duels in Vegas?
Well, you know, I'm going to have to always pick my Texas guy, Jake French. Great driver. I think it's all coming for him, but I think it's going to be hard to ask against Oliver, honestly. I watched him in 2020 at ROK, and he was just whooping ass all weekend. So I think he's going to do it again.
He's quick. He is quick. With the amount of testing he's got, you think he won't be too rusty. Braden, you're not a gearbox guy by trade, but you know the list. You know the drivers. You run against a lot of them. Who are you thinking?
I got AJ Myers. I think he's been a little bit worse than Marin this year, but I think he's motivated, and he's got I don't know. I just like to pick sort of the second best from this season rather than the best this season because Marin's been on top. If anyone's gonna knock him down, it's gonna be AJ.
Dalton, what do you got?
I mean,
I'm just kidding. That's all the time we have for tonight, guys.
No. I'm going Marin. On a serious note, it is like a super stacked weekend. Like if you look down the list, there's a lot of drivers that could win it. I think PSL is going to take the cake on it, but I think it'll be I think AJ is going to have a tough time getting between Marin and his teammates. Like how we have in Next 30 with RPG, like you can't get to Ryan without getting through his teammates first. I feel like AJ is going to have to get through some of Marin's teammates before he reaches him. I think that'll be pretty cool.
It might be a flip of what we saw at SuperNats, right? We saw SuperNats, Andrew Berjoso played ultimate team driver and blocked for a million miles, it seemed like, to put Marin and Jake back, and that's what gave AJ the win there. So I'm sure he'll try it if there's the opportunity for him to get AJ away. I think that's what makes AJ a safe pick. You'd think that Oliver will be there. I think Wick will be close. Keon Tandon was in the top 10 at ROK Shifter last year. He could be in the mix there this year. I think if Danny Formal gets the motor that he got to run at the ROK Winter Tour, if he's got that in his possession for ROK Vegas, I think he's still hard to beat even on the OTK shifter, which hasn't been as proven of a go-kart as the other brands have been. Because, I mean, when you talk to the focus of this year has been X30 and how dominant, Ryan Norberg and the entire Rawlson Performance Group team have been up until the last race when MDR and Speed Labs got really close with Justin Anaconis and were as fast, if not quicker, than him. And so that's been the storyline, is how good those guys' engines are. When we had at the Winter Tour era of the season, Jake, Marin, Danny on, and AJ on, Danny would talk about how good, they've been. And then you kind of could hear a little bit from Jake and AJ saying, yeah, like, we're good, but Danny's got like a piece. Like he's got like a really, really good horsepower ROK shifter motor. And so to me, I think I got high hopes for him. I think OTK shifter doesn't matter. I think he's really, really good at every temporary track, how tall he is. That's what also, in Oliver's case, like he was alluding to, of how tall he is in the go-kart, helps him at a low grip racetrack and a shifter track as well. I'm going with Danny. I think Danny's got it if he's got that piece that all those other guys seem to be a little bit jealous of how good his horsepower was on his really, really good ROK shifter. If he doesn't have it, I think Marion is a really, really smart pick. But if he does, I like Danny. And I'm not knocking Danny that he can't win without it, but it would say a lot either way if he wins on the OTK shifter, because that hasn't won a shifter race in a long, long time. Aaron.
I like Danny Formal. I always like him at the temporary tracks. Every time I go to Vegas, I'm like, keep an eye on Danny. And then he won KZ 2019, I want to say. He's a strong pick, but he is that OTK stuff. It's not, I don't think it's bad, but he seems to not be as comfortable on it as he was his Formula K equipment. So I like Danny. I think he'll be competitive. I don't know if he's going to have that full, the full Danny Formal, running up front that we usually see from him until maybe they've developed it enough already. But I think if I was going to pick a driver for this weekend, I'm going with Oliver Askew. Marin should be quick. I'm not sure how he's going to do with the ROK shifter stuff coming from KZ. I don't know if the motor that he's running is going to be as strong as I think what he usually brings to a Pro Tour event, what PSL usually has for the Pro Tour stuff. I don't know how that's all going to work out. It's a different class. I don't think the driving is too much different, but it might bring a different dynamic into it for him that we're not too sure of. But Riley mentioned Jake French. He's been fast like the entire season. He's been solidly on the podium most of the season. He's just looking for that last one win that he needs this year. But he's been consistently one of the fastest drivers at every track that we've been to.
And I love Jake. What, Dalton?
I think either way, it's going to be a great race. I'm really excited to watch it. I wish we were filming it because I mean, I really wish I was there to film it because I need some more money. But it's going to be a good race. I think it's not just one of those races where it's like, oh, you have a set winner. You have you got Marin, who doesn't really do ROK. You got Danny, who's on an OTK now. You got Oliver, who doesn't really race that much anymore, but he's still a great driver, and he's going with the team that he's been with for a while that he's comfortable with. And then you got AJ, who's always fast, Jake, who's always fast. You got all these names that I haven't even named yet that could win this race that we don't even really know. It just depends on what day they start practice. I guess we'll find out.
Oh, damn it. I was wrong, dude. Danny's not there. Shoot. I forgot.
Oh, he's not?
Danny's only doing SuperNats. He's only doing SuperNats. So take Danny out. I forgot. He's only doing SuperNats.
Because he won last year. Yeah, I mean,
he did. But yeah,
he won last year.
No, he's not going. He's just doing SuperNats. He's got other commitments this week. He told me that, man. I forgot, and I put him on our short list.
Isn't he doing some? Yeah.
Super Trofeo stuff continues to take over. I was checking back on his profile to check again, and I should have texted it before. I texted about everybody else to get on it, and I assumed it'd be there, but no, they're just doing SuperNats and KZ, which again could be really good. The thing that they've talked about is, with being with RPG, the lead OTK team, they're on the Vortex KZ. And this, what they were talking at SuperNats, a part of the reason it didn't look as good is that the go-kart's been really, really good. It's just the carburation is what they're shooting for on KZ, and it's very finicky because none of the KZ engine builders work with anything close to the Aspen fuel that we run over here stateside in the SKUSA Pro Tour. So that's tougher for them to get the carburation right. And then the Vortex KZ is a little bit trickier and an even smaller window than the TM KZs that everybody else runs in that class, the TM manufacturer KZ, which, we might see then next year, for example, at Stars or at USPKS, we were not running the Aspen fuel that, those guys run better over there than they would maybe at the Pro Tour until they figure it out eventually. So take Danny out. I guess that takes out the picks, takes out my pick, takes out Dalton's pick. No one really cares about Dalton's pick, but
my pick was Marin. You're not even listening to my pick.
Second, I wasn't
My
listening.
pick was
to
not
Formal.
Formal.
Nobody
I
wants to listen to you, Dalton.
We're
Why
good.
are you surprised by
Hey, I love Danny. I love Danny, but that OTK, I have almost zero faith in him getting that OTK to go fast.
Again, we've
they
gone
pull out
over.
some stuff.
We've gone. It's not the go kart. They've come out.
That's what they all say. It's
All
not
right,
the
that's what you
go-kart.
say too. You're
See,
also
exactly,
the guy that
what
also
Braden's
says
saying.
not the go kart.
Because there's a lot of variables in karting, but overall, it just like you, if you have a good engine, and okay, the carburation and the fuel is one thing, you can say that, but it's a Tony kart. It's not meant to be a shifter kart. Like either way.
Now you're just speaking. No, it's a
wait,
go
didn't they
kart
win the
built to be a
KC?
shifter kart. You can't just say
won
something
KC
outlandish
Worlds,
like that.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Dalton.
No,
Recently,
Dalton.
they
All right,
won.
we're muting
Yeah.
Dalton. We're muting Dalton.
Goodbye,
there.
Dalton. Goodbye. We'll
No,
see you later.
oh, no.
Oh, damn.
All right, we'll bring it back in. But no,
I just don't want to hear RPG complaining about their engines. Like, come on now.
Well, no, it's a completely different ballgame with the KZ stuff, and it's not that it's
Maybe they're just struggling because they don't have 2 horsepower on the field.
No, all right.
Okay.
The difference is they're set to run a specific manufacturer engines. What they're running is they're running the Vortex, shifter motors, where everyone else is on the TM base.
Yeah, they're fighting a little bit of an uphill battle, not because the Vortex is any worse, but because TM is so much more development from running it for so long out here that they have to put in more work for their engine program on the KZ side because they're fighting that development.
He's gonna prove all you guys wrong, and when we get to SuperNats, and I think the big man on the temp track.
I hope he does. Danny from Al, super cool. I like him a lot. I saw him.
We need to give Oliver Askew more love because he won in 2020.
He did win the last time he was in it, man. That dude's a beast, right? We love
that year.
Yeah, he's really. I think he'll be fast. I mean, with the testing he's got, right? Gary is a smart guy. They've got good power. I think he's a threat both weeks, hands down. All right, restructure. If we're really honest, this week is going to come down to 3 guys: AJ Myers, Marin Kremers, and Oliver Askew. And if Jake French slips in there, he might, right? But
he was there last year.
He was close last year. He was better than AJ last year. AJ said that, well, all right, you could take that out then because AJ said they've struggled on the tire. The tire has been the issue for the Magic guys on the ROK stuff all year long. They've been good on the MG Yellows. They've struggled on setup, so, for the ROK packages. So maybe, right? But he was also the only one to beat Danny in a session. Jake never beat Danny in a session at Winter Tour. Like AJ's beat him in some of those heat races. That's why he was closer in the points. Jake didn't even win a single heat.
As much as we're talking about them, and you mentioned this earlier, Hunter Pickett has been really fast.
Sleeper pick every race.
Absolutely
Sleeper pick. Super sleeper.
The only drawback, and I think this is going to come into a lot of play when we look at ROK Vegas and SuperNats, he has a 50% DNF rate. He is literally he's 3rd on Saturday at the Summer Nationals and the Spring Nationals, 5th on Saturday at NOLA, but he DNF'd all of the Sunday races.
Yeah, but all right, NOLA's not his fault. His engine caught on fire. His engine caught on fire at NOLA. Hunter doesn't get in wrecks. You don't ever hear wrecks with Hunter. You hear wrecks with about everybody else.
How do you wreck in shifter?
It's
possible.
AJ and Marin
together and everything, then he'll have a really good shot. I think it's mechanically everything just needs to stay going and not catch on fire.
Yeah, that's just I mean, stats wise, you can knock him for that, right? All right, so I don't know. You can put 4 of them there, and David Greco is, he's in the same boat as some of the other guys are, where he's just coming in on a completely different platform than what they run, north of the border. So that's what kind of puts him a little bit behind the 8 ball. And Andrew, man, if there's anyone that loves a barrier race, it's Andrew Bojosa. So, for Andrew's personality, he's just got to stay out of the casino past 2 a.m. And I think he has a halfway shot at making some noise this week. I mean, I think he knocked the wall down. Huh? Hannah Greenemeyer. Yeah, okay. Hannah Greenemeyer will be there.
I hate to mention her, but she has been very fast in the shifter.
Yeah. Why do you hate to mention her? What does that mean?
We're gonna mute Dalton again before it gets canceled on that comment right there. But Hannah's a good shot. It's open.
I think she's gonna do strong.
You think? All right. So if you really go down, then Oliver won previously. Marin Kremers has been the man to beat all year. Those 2 guys are safe. And the thing about the Winter Tour domination, is Marin wasn't running shifter then. So we haven't seen Marin in a shifter with a ROK-powered package yet. We get to see this week. Will be no fantasy league. We're going to wrap on that point here. We're going to come back with more stuff next week. Thanks to the boys, of course, for joining us here tonight. We've got more for you guys coming. Again, don't have a whole lot of ROK Vegas coverage this week. We're just not there. We would love to be there, guys. I wish everybody that's already there or in travel, safe travels there. The Vegas prep for SuperNats 25 is all what next week's show is going to be about. It's all what our work week in the next 2 weeks is going to be about. So we can't wait to get out for SuperNats 25. 15 grand up for grabs there. Biggest payday we've seen in North American karting in quite some time for a single race, which is awesome. So thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys in 1 week's time for episode 66 as we get closer to SuperNats 25.